So hello everyone and welcome to this new episode of 10 Questions About Cloud. Today we have Sebastien Stormacq with us. Welcome, Sebastien.
Hey, welcome. Thank you for having me in your show.
So I always use the first question to introduce yourself. So basically, who is Sebastien Stormacq?
How long do you have? I will make you a short version. So I'm Sebastien. I'm a cloud guy. I'm working in the cloud since 8 years now. That's quite long. I'm from Belgium, speaking French, born and raised in the area of Brussels. I work in IT all my life, which is more than 25 years now. That's why I have some gray hair already. I spent most of my professional career in Luxembourg, you know, that tiny little country in the middle of Europe. So I work a lot with banks and private funds and tons of technology, mostly Java. I was doing the first Java websites in Luxembourg to buy and sell stocks with Java applets. Maybe you remember, or someone remember Java applets. And from one position to the other, I landed in the cloud at AWS 8 years ago, because there is a big pool of people working for AWS in Luxembourg. I started in training. I gave 3 years of training. So I was delivering the technical course that allows to get the certification. So if you buy a training from AWS, architect, developer, system admin, I delivered this training. I trained the trainer that we were hiring. I trained the partners that were giving these trainings and participate in the certification as well, to write questions for certification. So I learned a lot, as you can imagine, about AWS during these 3 years. Then I quit AWS. I stayed at Amazon. I moved to Alexa, and I work as solution architect for Alexa. Maybe I should not pronounce her name too loudly, because I have 1 or 2 devices that might wake up around me. If this happens, sorry for that. So we were helping developers to create skills. A skill is like an app for Alexa. And I was based in London. And we created a team to launch Alexa in London, in Germany, in Italy, in France, and in Spain. That was another 3 really fun years. And then I moved to this role, which is, I had to explain to my parents, what is it? It's developer advocate, or developer relation, or sometimes we say technical evangelist. So we are this type of people that AWS sends into conference. Remember conference, that things where we used to gather together and learn from others, and hearing speech and have a drink after. I used to do that quite a lot. I'm still doing it, but being guest of podcasts like yours or video show. I have my channel on YouTube and Twitch. I'm writing blogs. I'm doing a podcast of my own as well in French, le podcast AWS en français for those that are French speaking. And I also help the meetup, the community organizer, to grow the AWS community in French speaking countries. That's my territory. Sorry, I said I would say a short answer. That's a long answer. But you have like an holistic view of all what I did the last 20 years.
No, that's basically very, very interesting. That's a long journey, a long cloud journey. And I think it's amazing. And by the way, I also had to ask to previous colleagues from you, what is basically the developer advocate day to day? Because the name is kind of weird. I mean, it doesn't show exactly what you are basically doing on your day to day, right?
That's correct. I'm a facilitator. I like to share my passion and my enthusiasm for technology and share it in a way which is easy to understand. So try to take a very complex piece of services, hardware, software, technology, and try to break it down and make it easy to explain, easy to understand, explain it in a way that it gives you desire. Oh yes, I'm going to try that. That will be useful for my app. So that's from AWS to the developers, but it's also the other way around, to listen to the developers. We are the ones actually talking with the builders, the developers, the ones that are using AWS. And so we heard tons of good and bad stories, like war stories about things that are not working. It might be tiny details in the console or some workflow that might be easier, or just things that sometimes are not working. And so we listen to that carefully, we document that, we bring that back to the service team. So we work closely with the service team as well to bring them that kind of customer feedback so that they can improve the service for you.
Yeah, that's really very, very interesting. I really like that role, and I think you're doing great. So as you already mentioned, as part of your job is to be active in social media, share a lot of knowledge, be active with the community. Yeah, maybe you can share with us when did you start to do that, or what is the most you like from doing that?
That's a good question. I am someone that loves communication. Since I'm really young, I was playing with microphone in my room when I was like 9 or 10 years old. I used to work for radio as a DJ in music radio when I was a teenager and young adult until 22 probably. It was like my hobby that pays my cars, my insurance, and fuel for the car when I was a student. It was on national radio in Belgium. So I'm someone that likes to communicate. So that's part of me since forever. And of course, internet is a fantastic way to communicate: video, audio, written communication. I was very active on social media even before my job requires to do so. But I had to balance what I can say, what I cannot say in different roles. Here I am in a role where I am actually paid to send message on Twitter, to produce video on YouTube and on Twitch. So for me, that's kind of the dream job for me. I can run my own podcast over my working time. That's part of my job to communicate. So to do this job, you need like a mix of super technical capabilities to understand your customer problems and to understand all services, but also be able to communicate and to share your enthusiasm and your passion with an audience, either on stage or through a camera just right now.
Yeah, definitely. And that's not something easy to engage people or to engage the community with technical stuff, which I mean, I think that the thing has changed a lot, because before, talking about technical stuff or technical topics was kind of boring. But now we are on that point that we can have fun while learning on technical services, for example.
And there are some great speakers. If you look at the developer advocate from my team at AWS, we have people that you can watch 1 hour on stage and they have fun anecdotes and stories. And at the end of their talk, you say, "Oh, it's 1 hour already," and I learned so many things, and it was so fun to do so. And so it's possible if you have a good on-stage presence and a sense of storytelling. It's possible to deliver quite complex message in a way which is not boring, which is actually fun, at least for the persons that are interested. Because it's still IT jokes or nerdy geeky jokes. So not everybody gets them. But for people that are working in that field, I think some people are able to do that, but usually it's like the five legs sheep. Is it the expression in English? I think so. Le mouton à cinq pattes, we said in French. Because some people are super good in technology, but they are really bad at communicating and sharing. And for the other, it's the opposite. They are super good at communicating, but they don't understand much about technology. And so we need to find in this team the people that are good at doing the two. And there are multiple ways to do the two. I'm talking about podcast, video, writing blogs, but that's actually 3 different skills. And some people might be super good at writing blogs, but not good on video. And it's totally perfect. And we have enough work to welcome all these diverse speaker and content producer to produce content to address the developer where they are. And it's the same as for learning. Some people are more effective learning, watching a video or listening a podcast or reading an article. So it requires different skills. You cannot be good at everything.
Yeah, it makes totally sense. You just said that you were working as a trainer. You are learning the partners, the customers. So you have a very deep understanding on the cloud skills and cloud knowledge. And well, we both agree that the cloud has come to stay, and that so I believe that if not in the future, in my opinion, already right now, the cloud skills and cloud knowledge is going to be required for any kind of job in the IT industry, kind of at least knowing the basics and all the fundamentals. What do you think about that? Do you also agree on that, or?
Yeah, I'm living in a mental world which might have a bias because I'm living in the cloud literally. So I'm always a bit careful about my own bias. But yes, I agree. Like you, cloud is there. It's there to stay. If you are not in the cloud today, the question is not how you're going to the cloud. No, it's not to know if you should go to the cloud. It's when and how you're going to go to the cloud. So cloud is there. It's going to stay. On-prem is there. It's going to stay for a while as well. In IT, technologies are never disappearing. They are just evolving. We still have mainframes with COBOL, and that's perfectly fine. So a whole set of different technologies are going to evolve over the time. And my advice is not only about to know about cloud, but to be a good generalist in IT. I think if you understand the fundamental concept of IT, of networking, of an operating system, how a process works, maybe you can write code a bit, and so you understand how an application works, how applications are communicating, what are the main security threads. Once you know that, actually going from one cloud to the other, it's just a matter of learning where to click in the console or what API to use, but the concepts are the same. So my advice is to be good at the foundation, have strong foundation, because from there you can learn everything. And I'm just taking my own example. Sorry, it's a bit focused on me, but that's the best example I have. Most of the technologies I'm using now did not exist when I was at university. Linux was, okay, maybe in his room, I have to check the exact date where Linux, the first lines of the kernel. But I think it was just after I went to university, Java was not there. And Java is not the most popular language in these days, so it came and go. The cloud was not there, obviously. What was already there? Operating system was there, the concept of Unix, POSIX, networking, and that's security, like the basic security authentication, permission. And things didn't change too much in 25 years. The foundations are still the same. So I think it's important to have good foundation, and then after that, you can do pretty much whatever you want.
I totally agree with you, and I think exactly the same. Just when I was at the university, the cloud was even not existing yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's something pretty new, I will say, but it's so powerful, and it's already changing all environments, all organizations, all the completely roles, not only IT, but also, let's say, sales, accounting. So it's completely changing the world, so to say.
It's an evolution. It's more an evolution of something that exists already. It makes a couple of things that were super hard to do, like scaling a fleet of machines or having quick access to resource for a short period of time, like to test an ID. It makes these things super easy because you just need a credit card, a few clicks in the console, and then you can get the same platform as the technology giant from this planet. I mean, the AWS cloud is the IT infrastructure that Amazon, the retail store, is using. So you can build the same as Netflix, as Disney Plus, or as Amazon.com. You have exactly the same tool. So it's up to your imagination, your competencies, and your budget a bit.
Yeah, definitely. The technology is there. If you want to use it, you can use it, but you will learn how to use it.
Exactly. I don't want to look like the old grumpy guy, but when I was a young developer, I was working in a project in a bank, and like 1 month before GA, before publishing the first version, it was an internal portal. A project manager came saying, "Hey, did you test the load of your application? How do you know that the application will work when all 300 employees are going to start to work that? And oh, oops, sorry, no, we didn't think about that. Okay, we are going to organize load testing. We learn quickly a bit how to do basic load testing, and we are talking about 300 users here, not millions of users. But then we need hardware, and at that time, no, sorry, hardware. You need to call your provider. It was Dell, HP, IBM, Sun Microsystem at that time, and then you have to order hardware, wait for the hardware to be delivered, and. But now in the cloud, you can get your environment in minutes, literally in minutes, use it for a few hours, and you will pay like what? The price of 2 cups of coffee, 3 cups of coffee. Okay, maybe more if it's really a large environment, but maximum a few $100, and the test is done. So the cloud is an enabler. It allows you to test your ID more quickly, more efficiently, cheaper. It allows you to experiment. It allows you to innovate. But I don't think there is something radically different in the technology. I'm back to my foundation. The foundations are the same. It's Linux server, Windows server, it's application, it's networking. It's the way you use them and the way they are available to you that is a bit different, and that makes our life much easier.
I totally agree with that. I see also a lot of advantages of the cloud. You already mentioned a few of them, like you can build your own application in a few minutes, or with just a few clicks, or just writing a very little code. You can also test it before deploying it. You can also, so I mean, there are so many advantages. We could, I don't know, speak hours and hours talking about the advantages, but maybe you can mention your, I don't know, your preferred or your, yeah, let's say your biggest advantages about AWS or about the cloud.
The biggest advantage for the cloud, can I say 2?
Yeah, just a few.
If you say a few, maybe I will say 3 then. The first one for me is the immediate availability of the resource. You can get resource on demand. I need something, I can get it now. I don't need to go through my central IT department. Let me give you another example. I was working for another company. It doesn't exist anymore, so the name is not important. And we were in a conference, and we want to make a drawing, like to draw a prize for the people that attend the conference. And we need something with a big screen where we can choose a random number and play something. But at that time, we could not come with a server under or ARM. At that time, there was no Raspberry Pi. Laptops were no, not really. And we used an Amazon EC2 instance. It was really at the beginning of the Amazon cloud at that time. And that day I realized, oh, my company is not able to provide me the hardware resource I need to do my job, to make a drawing fun for customers. But I can get hardware from another company and just pay a few dollars, because that was the price for the day for the small machine that we rent. So availability on demand of resource. And what I can do as a small developer, imagine what an enterprise can do with that, like research company that are spawning huge cluster to crunch number only for a few days and then turning them off. And the second is the utility model for pricing. It's like electricity. I'm just paying from what I'm using. There is no subscription fees. There is no fixed monthly fee. If I use 1 hour, I'm paying 1 hour. If I'm not using it, I'm not paying it. And that's for me the 2 things that the cloud really changed. And it takes a change of mentality to appreciate that. If you always procure hardware in a very traditional ways in traditional enterprise, maybe it will take a bit of time to adjust to that new model. But once you understand it, wow. I remember being the first time in the AWS console, and at that time there was not so many services. It was basically S3, EC2, SQS, that was roughly it. But I felt, wow, if I need 10 server, no, I can get 10 server in 10 minutes. I was like a kid in a candy store. Yay! Can I get that? And can I get that? So that's the 2 things: on demand and the pay-per-use aspect. If I can add a small third one, is the scalability. Because once you understand the scalability of the cloud, you say you can build your solution for 1 user, and you will pay almost nothing for that. But the scalability of the cloud will make that your solution will also work for 100 users, 1,000 users, 1 million users. if you architect your application correctly, and that's why we have trainings and developer advocate to teach you to do that. But if it is well done, it can scale almost infinitely. I repeat, Disney Plus, 180 million subscriber, and they entirely developed the platform on AWS. That was the most massive launch with the most increase of subscription in a short period of time when they opened the service. And that thing scales thanks to elastic infrastructure such as the one provided by AWS.
I really like that you provide some examples, because they can also, I know, because sometimes if you speak just about theory, but you don't say any examples, sometimes it's difficult to imagine about that. But putting those examples, those real examples at that scale and with that reputation, makes things very, very clear. And yeah, you can feel it, so to say.
And don't be misunderstood by something. It's not because I'm giving names of very large customer like Amazon.com or Disney Plus. Small startup or a very small enterprise with 3 persons can get the same benefits at their scale, of course, at their budget, but they have the exact same benefits as this very large enterprise. And that's another advantage of the cloud. It's the same cloud, the same technology, the same price for everybody, depending on the scale of your usage.
Yeah, that's a very good point. It's the platform is the same for everyone. So it's just if you want to use it, you have it. You can access it and do that. There is one thing that you mentioned which I consider very, very important, because for example, let's say AWS, it's growing so fast. I remember also when I started using AWS, there were like 10, 20 maximal services, but now when I open the console, it's like my brain explodes. There are no more place to see all the services that there are. It's kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And
yep.
Continue.
We say that we innovate for our customers. So we listen, what are our customer pain points? What is difficult for our customer? It's difficult to do that. Okay, let's try to create a service that helps that. And 90% of our roadmap is actually based on customer feedback. So we don't invent just because we think it's cool, but because it solves real customer problem. So I start with AWS, working at AWS 8 years ago. At that time, there was, I don't know how many services, maybe 20, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. But I remember there was 13 regions, and now we have 24 regions. So it's more than 1 region per year that we open over the next 8 years. And at that time, I think it was still possible to know almost everything about AWS, maybe not in deep technical details, but you can be an expert of AWS. The full AWS. Now you cannot be an expert of AWS anymore. You can be an expert in data analytics or in data science, like machine learning, or in networking, or in security, or application development, or database. Yes, but being a full expert on AWS, no. I know a few persons that have like 10, 11 certifications, but that's still very, very exceptional people. Now, but you don't need to be an expert to start with AWS. The good news is that if you don't care about data analytics, data science, just ignore that part in the console and focus on the things that you need. And most people, to start with, they need a bit of virtual machines if they go the old way, or Lambda functions if they go the new way, a bit of storage like Amazon S3, maybe a database, DynamoDB or RDS. And that's enough to start and to build something for your first couple of years. When you will have problems that are bigger because your customer base is bigger, your business is bigger, you can be confident that everything is there for you to help you. So you don't need to switch to another provider. No, you have that huge set of services that you mentioned, but you don't need to know them all to get started. So get started with 1, 2, 3 that makes sense for you, for your application. And then knowing that after, if you have more needs, if you want to go mobile, if you want to start machine learning, everything is there too at the time you will need it. And that's the way to spread your learning curve over time. And I think it's the only way to do it now.
Yeah, I totally agree that the cloud ecosystem right now is so broad and so extensive that it's impossible to know everything. Well, maybe not impossible, but it's very difficult to know about each of the topics that you mentioned. And maybe you can tell us what is your focus or what are you more interested in?
Ah, that's a nice transition. Good one. Sorry, I'm also doing podcast. I know that doing transition between one subject and the other is not always easy. That's a nice one. Thank you. Yes, my focus is developer. That's my audience. That's the people I'm talking to. That's the people that are writing code. So I used to write code a lot myself professionally. I was paid to write code. No, these days I'm most writing demo. So my focus is development tools. I don't know why, since I am at university, I like tools that developers can use to make their life easier. When I was in my student room, I was trying to code a source code control system way before Git. Okay, Linus was faster than me and managed to make something much more successful than what I did at that time. But yeah, that's also part of what I like. So on AWS, I like, of course, the API, the CDK, I like Lambda, DynamoDB, Amplify, and I have a part of my heart attract to mobile application as well. In other lives, I publish a couple of iOS applications. I still have a couple of iOS applications published on the store. So everything that allows mobile developer to use backend resource, because I feel it's like a world with a huge separation in between. On one side, you have the front-end developers, the people that are able to create nice user interface with fluid animation, good looking. And then you have the hardcore backend developers, the guys that are writing API to let you consume data, that implements complex business logic. And I feel that in 21st century, 2021, the gap is a bit disappearing between these two worlds. And what I like to do is to try to show front-end developer how they can leverage backend resource without having a backend team, what we call the full stack developer. So without being a cloud expert with tools like Amplify today, you can really easily create a data schema, create a database, create an API for it, consume that securely and at scale from your mobile application or from your web application using a very simple API. And that's the part I'm spending a lot of time to, with also a focus on identity and authorization. So identity management, how to manage user profile, how to do identity federation, things like OAuth, and that's the part I like to explain, because it seems easy. When you go into the details, it's not that easy, and many people think they understand OAuth until we really go into the details, and then you realize, oh no, maybe I didn't understand fully. So that's part of the technology I like to explain.
That's very interesting. That's not my focus, but I really like also that topics. The question is now, how do you do that to be or to keep yourself up to date on that topics? Because there is a lot of information, but on the other hand, AWS or the cloud providers, they are releasing so many changes so fast, so many new features, so many new services. So sometimes for me personally, it's kind of difficult to keep myself up to date. Yeah, maybe you can share with us how do you do that, or maybe you are consuming some blogs or
both. As I said at the beginning, I'm fortunate to be paid to produce content as well. And for me, the best way to learn is by doing. Mm-hmm. So if there is something new, I need to have my hands wet at it. When we launch Amazon Location Service, that service that allows you to provide geolocalization data inside your mobile app in November, immediately I took a couple of hours to try to write a demo iOS application that includes that service, that sends alert when the phone is leaving a specific geographic area or stuff like that. And that's my way to learn that. But producing content, like if I need to produce a 5-minute video to explain that in a very short period of time, 5 minutes, and to be super effective, it requires a lot of preparation. And I'm in a super position where I can take the time. Actually, it's part of my job to learn how it works, so that I can explain and record a video and write a demo or write a blog post about that. So by being obliged to produce content to explain how technology works, it obliged me to learn about that. But beside that, yes, it's a lot of reading, but that's something I did before my job, and I can encourage everybody in working in IT just to be curious and read the news, and the good news, not only that company launched a new phone with a 50 million pixel camera. I'm talking about development tools, development methodology, about security techniques, security hacks, because if you learn about the hacks, you also learn how the people get into the system, so you know the type of things you have to be protected from. So reading, and not necessarily books. I'm not reading a lot of technical books these days, but a lot of blogs, articles, and have a good set of people to follow on Twitter and LinkedIn.
Cool, really interesting, and I totally agree with you that learning by doing is the best way to learn new things, and reading continuously new blogs, articles, and whatever is there is not only necessary, it should be mandatory in order to keep yourself up to date. Mm-hmm. And the last question, which is basically also the most difficult one, I left that for the end, because I would like to share that you share with us only one thing that you learned recently.
One thing that I learned recently. Yesterday, I found a French researcher in neuropsychology doing a 1.5-hour talk on cognitive bias and how your brain can trick you to keep you in your comfort zone, or to keep you sure that you know something. Well, actually, you don't know everything about that thing, and how we can detect this type of bias. And that was a larger talk that also talked about why we are attracted to fake news. That's a subject that I'm quite interested, especially since 2 or 3 years with the explosion of this type of information on social network. And that was the last thing I learned. It's cognitive bias, how to detect them, how to prevent them.
Cool, really interesting. For me, very complex topic.
Yes. And I certainly did not understand everything, but the guy was super clear. It's this type of guy, you listen to them, and at the end of the talk, yeah, it's totally evident, it's clear. But no, after sleeping on it, if I want to re-explain the same to you, it's, how can I do that?
Yeah, very complex topic, definitely, but also very interesting. Cool. Sebastien, that was it basically for the podcast. I would like to thank you very much for participating, for sharing your experiences, your opinions. It's been a pleasure for me having you here. I really enjoy it a lot. And I will leave all your social media links in the description, and in case anyone wants to contact you.
No problem. I'm always answering on Twitter and LinkedIn. I'm quite available. And thank you, Pablo, for having me here. It was a pleasure to talk with you.
Okay, thank you very much. See you in the next podcast. Bye-bye.